Hi, and welcome to Jason's Bar. Today we're going to talk about equipment, tools you need to make cocktails. Now, I am not a professional, and I hate it when people say you have to have all this equipment and stuff to make a good drink. You don't need a ton of stuff, but there are some essentials that make the difference between making a so-so or a lackluster cocktail versus something that's really good that your guests and yourself will really like. Okay, so just some real basics. The first thing is, one of the things that makes a big difference in a cocktail is fresh juice. So I make, my specialties like tiki drinks, old fashions, mint juleps, and Spanish coffees. That's kind of my thing. But I can tell you with most drinks, fresh juices make a world of difference. So the first thing you're going to need is a way to juice citrus juices, okay? So you can do canned stuff if you have to in a pinch, like pineapple. I often use canned pineapple juice if I don't have time to crush my own. But really making the difference between a decent cocktail and a great one is fresh juice. So juicing, there's several different tools you can use. You've seen these things, they work by cutting the citrus in half and then juicing like this into a vessel, like that. These can work, these are fine, I use this. There's larger ones like this, juicers, that again, you take your citrus, cut it in half, put it in here, and then you mush down on it like this, and then it strains it out and you pour it out like that. If I'm doing a lot of oranges, larger citrus, this is what I'll use, something like this. And of course, you've seen all other kinds, the big, cool bartender ones that you put the thing in there and mush it down. I don't have the counter space and I don't use it that frequently. My favorite thing is this. They make different sizes. And since I'm almost always doing limes, it's perfect to cut that in half, stick it in there, squish that down, and the juice comes out. So this is my favorite. These are available, tons of bartending supply places carry most of this stuff, but also Mexican stores carry this kind of stuff. So that's the first thing, a way to juice fresh citrus. Okay, next is now these are essentials, is a zester. A ton of flavor. There's way more flavor just in the zest in citrus than there is the juice. And so that's kind of a secret little ninja trick to really getting the flavor of the citrus in your cocktails. If you're putting lime juice in something, zest the skin, and that will just add another element of the lime and give it that punch that your guests are going to be like, whoa, oh yeah, this is different. This is really good. So a zester, this one's by Microplane. I like it the best just because of the quality of it, but there's others, okay? So a zester. Next, another common thing that makes the difference between a quality cocktail and a so-so cocktail is measuring the amounts. If you think of how little goes into, let's say, a glass this big, like a martini glass, the different ratios of ingredients in there, it's important to get those just right. And again, that's what makes the difference between a cocktail that's overly boozy and just a shot of alcohol, or something that's watered down, or something that's really muddled, okay? So measuring your amounts is critical, and they need to be accurate. And that also lets you tweak your cocktails accurately. So in other words, if you get a recipe off the internet, or you use one of mine, and you make a cocktail, and you go, that's pretty good, but man, I would like a little more of this, a little more of that. If you write your notes down, then you can recreate that and tweak the amounts a little bit, but only if you have an accurate measuring system. So shot glasses are like the thing that everybody has. We collect these on vacations. The problem with just using shot glasses is they all hold different amounts. You can't replicate it. How much is in here? Is this a half ounce? Is it a full ounce? Have you measured it? So if you're going to use a shot glass, at least measure it first so you know exactly how much it holds. But even that's not great, because then what if you need less than that? What if you need a half ounce? What if you need an ounce and a half? What if you need 3/4 of an ounce. Okay, so having something more accurate, something like this, a shot glass that has ounces or milliliters or tablespoons on it. These sort of things you see bartenders use. Now, don't be intimidated by when you see bartenders at fancy cocktail places. That's their career, and they're usually specializing in one style of drink or a list of drinks that they've already pre-measured, they've memorized, and they've made 1,000 times. So they may have one of these. They know, okay, this drink takes one of these and one of these to make this and that and the other. Okay, so us as home bartenders, we can get intimidated by that. Don't be intimidated by that. Find something that works for you that measures. Like this one has measurements inside it, so you can pour and say, oh, that's 1/3 of an ounce. Exactly. What happens to me is I forget over time. If I don't make a cocktail in 3 weeks straight, which rarely happens, but you forget. You're like, oh, wait, how much is this and how much is that? Did I get that right? Am I sure? So having something with measurements on it. Okay, so my favorite measuring devices are these two. And it's because they're graduated on the inside, meaning when I pour on the inside, I can actually look and see. It's steel, so I can't see through the outside. I can see all the inside, and there's several marks, so I know exactly how much is in there. This is my absolute favorite. Same type of thing. It's just really cool and has milliliters and ounces on it. Easy to pour in what I need and go there. So this is my absolute favorite device. Classic stuff. I found this at a garage sale. I love this thing. It's like an aluminum, but what's it called? A bar boy. And it's got graduations on the inside, so you can pour what you need. It's got a bottle opener and, of course, a corkscrew. So that's kind of fun. Fun stuff like that. But accuracy in your measuring. Okay. Next is a way to ice your drinks. Shakers to ice them. Okay, so again, all been to bars and seen the different methods. So there's this method, just 2 steel containers that you put together and shake and pour out. This is currently my favorite, and I'll explain why. There's also this method. You have the steel tin and a glass, same type of thing, pop them together, shake. This one is super handy for a lot of cocktails. Not all of them, but it's this thing that has a strainer in it. So the idea is here, you put your liquid, you put your ice in there, put all this on, shake it, pull it out, and then when you pour, that strainer keeps the ice out. Super convenient for most cocktails, but not all of them. The reason is because it doesn't strain out pulp from your citrus. Okay, but if you're making like a old-fashioned or martini or something that doesn't need secondary straining, this is a good option. The only thing I don't like about this style is then this can be hard to take back off. It's easy now because everything's dry and warm, but once this gets freezing cold, it seals it together, which helps it seal and doesn't spill. But it also then makes it hard to take off. You'll slip and, I can't get this thing off. Okay, so that can be kind of a downside. This is also a measuring device, so it can be used for that, although like these other things, it's not graduated, so you don't really know exactly how much it is. Okay, so a way to shake and stir with ice. Speaking of stirring, so long-handled spoon, that's a necessary, just if you're just stirring a drink, something like this instead of just a regular teaspoon that's like that short. Okay, so stirring spoon, again, any grocery store or bartender supply store has things like this. Okay, the next thing is one of my favorite tools is the strainer. Now, some people say, oh, Jason's going too far. You don't need to strain stuff out unless it's like chunks of cinnamon or something like that. You use this a lot. And again, this is kind of what separates a ho-hum drink to a really good drink that someone would pay for. The reason this is here is a couple things. Like I said with this, If you use anything with pulp in it, or zest, or big spices in it, a big spice like cinnamon sticks or cinnamon chunks, things like that that are bigger that you don't want in your drink, the strainer like that's not going to keep it out, and neither is this, okay? If you final strain your drink through a strainer, that gets everything out and makes it really smooth and more pleasant mouthfeel for your guests, okay? So this is good. The next thing is this device, and this is meant to just keep out bigger stuff, ice chunks. So if you've shaken a drink, you put this on top of it like that, put your finger on it right here. It's made specifically to do this, so you can now hang on to it and pour it into your glass. Now, this will only keep out big chunks of ice. Otherwise, that's not going to strain much. So then a common thing that I do is shake my drink, put this on it, pour it in there, and strain everything out. That way, everything is out of there. Super duper handy, okay? So those are the basics of what you need. A muddler, depending on what kind of drinks you're making, a lot of times there's a need to muddle things. I make a lot of old fashions, so the mint goes in and I beat it up just a little bit. So a muddler, again, something like this with a flat tip on it. So these are the basics, and really, that's all you really need to make a decent cocktail. You can kind of modify and figure out how to use all this equipment to make cocktails. But then you've got the fun part of it, or the tools part of it. So you know the tools section at Home Depot or a hardware store where all us guys like to just go hang out and look at all the cool tools and find a tool and then try to find a need for it instead of having a need and then finding a tool to solve it. Bartending equipment's the exact same way. It is all kinds of fun to look at all the different things that they make to make really good cocktails. But a lot of times you'll buy the stuff, you'll use it once or twice, and then you'll realize this doesn't really fit. I don't need this, but it's still kind of fun. There are things that do stick that you buy and you go, oh my gosh, this is really good. So you'll kind of find your own. Those are the basics that I just showed you. Some of the fun things that I use, for example, are this little, it's almost like an eyedropper. Now, this is bitters in here. What would you use this for? Usually when you buy bitters, it comes with a dropper in there. Well, guess what? When you go to Lima, Peru, and you have a pisco sour, in the very top of it, they're going to drop bitters in there. And the color change lets you design something. And so often it's served with a smiley face or something like that in there. This dropper does not allow you to do that. This dropper does, because it's so small and you can really control the drops that come out. So again, something not necessary, but a lot of fun to have. And that's from Lima, Peru. Other things are pour spouts like this. You know, if you're pouring from a bottle, you know, we'll just take my Machu Pisco, and let's say you need to pour a ½ ounce of it into here. You know, how easy is it to glug that? Actually, it's easier because this is clear. If it's a dark bottle, you know, it's a black bottle like this, and now you're going to pour, you can't see the liquid inside, you can glug, okay? You put a pour spout in there like that, makes it easy. Now, are you going to dig this out of your drawer and put it in just to pour one little ½ ounce and then take it out and put it away and wash it and use it next time? That's adding a lot of steps just for that much. So you probably won't do that, okay? What you would do then is say, well, just leave it in, Jason. Just put it in there, and then when you're done, just put it back up there like that, and boom, there you go. The problem with that is that's open. In other words, bugs and gnats and anything else that like alcohol or sugars are attracted to that, and they'll get in there. So you can't leave it in there full time. Again, don't compare yourself to a bar that maybe has these set up and they're using them frequently, and then at the end of the night they clean them all off. You're different. You're a home bartender. You need to make it easy. So I'm not a big fan of these. unless I was making drinks all night and again, would set it up. Otherwise, I don't like that. You'll learn to pour without glugging. But the next thing is something like this has a cap on it. So then you go, oh, there you go, Jason. You've just solved your flying gnat or sugar ant issue or whatever. The problem with these is they get clogged. That over time, the sugar in your alcohol drinks and stuff in your alcohol bottles will clog all this up. And then so you have to take it out and clean it and stuff like that. And again, it's just another step that's just a hassle. I'm not a big fan. That doesn't mean you can't use them, but they're a waste. It's just, for me, simplicity. Not a big fan of this. Back to the measuring thing, they do make these that are, here they got little bearings in there, and they're pre-measured. So in other words, when you dump this out, it's supposed to only pour a certain amount, like a ½ ounce. And then they have other ones that pour 3/4 of an ounce. Sounds fantastic, because now you've just done away with this, right? You go, well, man, just put a blue cap and that's a ½ ounce, and I pour that in my drink. Couple of problems with this. First off, they're not terribly accurate. You test them several times, they'll pour different amounts. The other thing is the same problem with these. The more they get gummed up with dried sugar or things in the bearings, they get clogged, or they'll still function, but they'll pour more or less. So then they become even more wildly inaccurate. So although these look really cool, and bars may use them to help their bartenders not have to have this step, again, bars are professionals and do it all the time. Also, a lot of bars, they don't make that great of drinks, right? If it's a high-end bar, you'll see they're not using this. If it's a low-end bar, they're probably not making great drinks. And I'm talking, I'm teaching you guys how to make great cocktails, okay? So that's the measuring part of it. Another couple little side things are devices like these little ketchup type squeezers are helpful for, I use them most for when I put cream in there, and then I can shake it a little bit to thicken up the cream, meaning not quite make whipped cream, but thicker than regular cream. And then you can layer that on top of your chocolate martini or whatever you're making, like this. Okay, so this kind of device can be helpful if you're making that kind of drink. Bottles. So keep a few extra bottles around. You get done with a liquor that you like and the bottles are cool. Keep a few around, especially ones like this that have corks in them. The reason is because as you start making your own cocktails, you're also going to start making your own mixes. So in other words, this is lime cordial, which is just basically sugar water with lime in it. But you want to make it ahead of time and then keep it. Now this I have for cocktails. It's all ready, and it's already in a nice bottle, okay? And so, you can keep that around. So a few of your nicer bottles like that, clean the labels off, rinse them out, clean the insides, and then you've got things to keep your mixes in that'll keep for a while. These are great for simple syrup. That's a very common thing that people don't make. It's not difficult to make, but it's so nice when you have it ahead of time. You're going to make a quick drink. You're like, oh, simple syrup. Okay, I got to put a sugar in here and mix it with water or whatever. Having it in the fridge ahead of time really helps. So keeping extra bottles around. The last thing I can think of is to make your drinks fun. Make them fun for your guests. And how you do that is all the other fun little frilly things we do. So like your bar napkins with silly things on them. Are you sure you can handle another glass of wine? Yes. Little trinkets like this that go on, that little monkeys that hang on your glass. Those things like that, they seem silly, but that's what makes it fun. I love tiki drinks, and so I have these glass bamboo straws for my tiki drinks. And then your glassware. Now, I'm not one of those purists that says every drink has to be served in the exact right glass. I hate it when they get too technical like that. Like you're a complete bum if you serve a mint julep in a martini glass or something like that. Come on. But having said that, there is a reason the shapes of glasses are the way they are a lot of times, or the size of them. Okay, so you do want to kind of stick to what the drink was intended. So obviously we've all seen like martini type glasses, and so martinis and any other drinks that will fit in here fine that you want iced or that are kind of delicate. Now when it comes to martini glasses, I actually like this kind better. And the only reason is, this is the classic kind, right? The only reason is this has a really thick base, and that's a lot of glass right there. I keep these in the freezer, and so when I make my cocktail, make my martini, it helps keep it cold because the volume of that glass, the thermal mass, keeps the drink colder longer. Now again, that's really splitting hairs. Is it like, oh, okay, Jason, I better go out and throw out my classic martini glasses to get these? Of course not. I'm just telling you what I like and why. And then, so other common glasses like this size for mint juleps is what I make in these, or my old fashions, drinks like that. My tiki, like 1 serving tiki drinks in here. And then of course, this taller 16-ounce glass. This is the most common one for larger tiki style drinks that, you know, that go in that. Also bamboo mugs are great for tiki drinks. And then, of course, we have cocktail glasses like this. You can pick and choose whatever you want. And then, of course, mugs for hot drinks. You know, your Spanish coffees, drinks like that. Also, eggnogs are good in this sort of glass that you can hang on to. So it's not super critical about that. So anyway, that's it for the basic ones. Don't be intimidated and think you have to have everything. Just the basics. To review here, a way to juice your citrus, a zester, okay, that's for maximum flavor, and then measuring devices to measure exactly so you can get it right, and then a way to shake and strain your ice. Really, that's it. If you have those basics, you can make a great cocktail and then add on it from there. Okay? I hope you've learned something. Thanks for watching. See you again.